Hey guys, welcome back to another video for Alex's Flying Club. And we're back in the DC-3, and I'm kind of on a roll with these civilian airline videos. This is the fourth one I've made in about, I think, 2 or 3 days. And I'm just having a lot of fun flying this tour of the United States. So it's definitely an increase in output of my usual video production, but as long as I'm having fun, it's all good. So, okay, I'm just doing the startup procedure for this aircraft. We're taking off from Wilkes-Barre in Pennsylvania and heading to Buffalo, New York. This video is going to run a little longer than I want with these videos. It's about 30 minutes, but I did want to show a few engine management things that came up and that I learned about. So I think it would be useful if you're trying to learn this aircraft. Here I'm just running through the abbreviated startup procedure again. And I've selected the Winter Wonderland option for the weather. So we're going to take off in this light snowfall from Wilkes-Barre, and then by the time we get into Buffalo, it will have changed into no snow, but a lot of turbulence on the landing. And this is morning time, so we will see the sunrise as we're flying throughout the flight, and it'll be daytime by the time we get into Buffalo. So I've started up both engines. Gonna get an external view in a second here. Using my favorite skin for the default Flight Simulator 2004 DC-3, the Emerald Harbor Air. Not sure what airline this actually was in real life, if it actually was one, but kind of has a nice nostalgic sound to it. And I've loaded up this time. I remembered to load up the DC-3 with 50% fuel, which I think was more than enough to get us to the destination. It made the aircraft lighter, and it helped with the climb rate. I noticed the fully loaded DC-3 is very sluggish to climb, especially at higher altitudes. At first I thought it was going to be a significant gain with the decreased weight, but it actually was, I'd say, a medium improvement in climb rate. So here I demonstrated carburetor heat, turning that on, increase the carb air temperature, turn it back off, and carb temperature went down. And I think I'll demonstrate this again during the flight, where it matters more. Here I'm checking the fuel quantities. I've got 50% on each tank. And I did remember to notify tower of my takeoff this time.
Wilkes-Barre ground, Douglas, November 849er Echoes Hotel, ready to taxi, west departure. Douglas, November 849er Echoes Hotel, taxi to and hold short of runway 22. Contact tower on 120.1 when ready. Taxi 2 and hold short runway 22. Wilkes-Barre Tower, Douglas, November 849er Echoes Hotel, ready at runway 22. Departure to the west. Douglas, November 849er Echoes Hotel, clear for takeoff, runway 22, west departure approved. Clear for takeoff, runway 22. Douglas, November 849er Echoes Hotel.
forgot to release the parking brake before throttling up, but it didn't seem to cause any problems. This was a sloppy takeoff for some reason. Well, I think I know the reason is because I should have adjusted my view so I could see the runway before the nose went down, because the plane was veering to the left, and I didn't notice that until I had to give it a hard right rudder to keep it straight. So here's where I thought the climb rate was going to be vastly improved. I was climbing at 1,000 feet per minute, and the speed was still going up. And I think this aircraft climbs a lot better at lower altitudes. I was trying to push it and go very high. For some reason I thought, maybe considering modern airliners that cruise at like 20, 30,000 feet, I thought this aircraft could at least go to 20, but it actually, after 10,000 feet, it starts really chugging along kind of heavily, and the climb rate does decrease. So I think I looked it up on Wikipedia, and the maximum speed on this aircraft is at 8,500 feet, 8,500 feet. So maybe it's not meant to cruise at a high altitude. I did take it up to 15,000 feet on this flight. It took a little bit of a while, but it was nice because we went above the cloud layer.
Douglas Niner, Echo Hotel, you are leaving my airspace. Frequency change approved.
Just set the autopilot. There's a few things that you should do after you take off in this aircraft. I should show them right now. I'm looking at the checklist, which is not visible in the video. For some reason, Fraps doesn't record the checklists. So you should turn the boost pumps, fuel boost pumps off during flight, according to the checklist. And start leading the mixture out after takeoff, as well as closing the cowl flaps. I think in real life, the cowl flaps on an airplane add drag, which reduces speed, climbing ability. I don't know if that aspect is modeled in this flight simulator, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Okay, so now we've been climbing and getting above the clouds, and you'll see in the next few minutes how the daytime is coming upon this flight. The sun is rising behind us, and you'll see the sky bright. Down below is Pennsylvania, I guess. And And out in the distance is a Cessna 208 amphibian, which is a plane that's flyable in this simulator. It's a pretty fun plane to fly, one of my favorites. Especially the amphibian version of it. You can land on water or on land. So I'm at about 10,500 or 10,500 feet, and you can see that the climb rate, which was at about 1,000 feet per minute down on the deck, has probably been halved at this altitude. Jumping ahead to 15,000 feet. I'm going to go level at this altitude. I think in future flights I'll rarely get this high in the aircraft, especially because the flights in this package are so short. I'm sorry. There really isn't much time to get altitude and stay at that height. I think that looks pretty nice for Flight Simulator 2004. This was an enjoyable flight for me. Here I'm adjusting the mixture, and I noticed with this aircraft I couldn't find anything that indicated that you were at. Well, here, let me first make this point. This is what I was trying to demonstrate, the carburetor heat. Again, I turned it off, and you can see the carburetor air temperature dropping pretty instantaneously. And the sound of the engine changes too, because you heard it go a little lower, the rumble. It decreases performance when you turn on the heat, but then you see the temperature rising for carburetor. So I guess it's a winter day, it's pretty cold, we're at high altitude, so it was good to turn that on to get the carb air temperature up to the green level. And I was mentioning about the mixture. Some aircraft, well, in Rise of Flight, the World War I simulator, you can actually judge what mixture level to use based on the RPMs. So if you play around with a mixture at a certain altitude, the RPM will change, and you want to leave it at the highest RPM level. That's when you're getting the maximum performance from that altitude for the engine. But here, the RPM is constant, so I just kind of, unless somebody can tell me, you know, some kind of indicator on the instrument panel, I just kind of go by the sound of the engine when I change the mixture, and where it sounds like it's getting the most performance. So here I wanted to demonstrate the cylinder temperature, and I was a bit confused. I wanted to get it up to the green level, so during my descent, what happened was I decreased my manifold pressure on my RPMs, and that decreased the cylinder head temperature. So I was a bit worried because I was at a high altitude and we were approaching the airport to land, as you can see in the GPS, and I wanted to lose the altitude, but not at a crazy descent rate to upset my passengers. So I set the descent rate, and to control my speed I lowered the RPMs and manifold pressure, but that decreased the cylinder head temperature. So I was kind of in a conundrum. What was I going to do to increase it? And eventually I figured it out, but for a while I was kind of doing a fine balancing act between speeds, descent rates, and throttle controls. But I'll show you in a little bit how to fix this problem if you encounter it. See, I still couldn't get that temperature into the normal level. I tried reducing the carburetor heat to maybe allow more of the heat to stay in the engine. I don't know. I was just trying out ideas, but that didn't work. Still not quite in the green zone. Okay, so here was the solution to my problem. If you want to increase your cylinder temperature, you have to work the RPM. So you can descend at a faster rate, but you have to decrease your manifold pressure more, but leave your RPM high. And the RPM is what really heats up the cylinder heads. So you'll see me really revving the RPMs up, even as I decrease manifold pressure, and the cylinder head temperature is still going up. So I believe that's the correct way to descend while keeping your temperatures at the levels that you want them to be. Turned off the carburetor heat, but I noticed that the temperature is not dropping too much. It still stayed in the green zone, so I left it off at this altitude. Okay, so I'm nearing the airport, but there's a huge cloud covering it up, so I get a little closer than I would have liked before starting my approaches to the landing. I should have just trusted my GPS and started my turn early, even though I hadn't seen the airport yet. And there is Buffalo Niagara International Airport. That runway I'm looking at right now, that is the one I have to land on, and I have to approach it from this side that we're closest to. So I'm going to make a big U-turn essentially. But the air was so turbulent and my approach was delayed, and it was quite a sloppy maneuver. But I did edit it out of the video because the footage was running a little long. And why not cut my mistakes out to show you the good stuff? Here we are on final approach.
Hotel cleared to land. Runway 23. Cleared to land. Runway 23. Douglas Niner Echo Hotel.
For some reason this runway did not have the descent indicator lights, which definitely would have helped in this turbulent air, especially since I'm just getting used to the DC-3 landing procedure. I should also probably check which direction the wind is coming from, because at the last minute the wind drifted me to the left, and I had to overcompensate at the last minute. Made for a bit of a rough landing, or at least not a messy landing, I should say. Landings in adverse wind conditions is something I have hardly ever practiced, because in the flight simulators that I play, it's not a big factor, especially ACES high. It does have an effect in rise of flight. So I should probably make a few videos with normal wind conditions. I've been kind of trying to do various storms and winter weather just for visual effect, but I should do some regular weather, clear weather, to practice my landings for future videos. And then when I get bored of that, I can do some crosswind landings and things like that, just to spice up the journey. It's kind of a nice touch with the highway signposts right before the runway. And I did look up the hotkey for the tail wheel, which helped me control the aircraft after I got on the ground. And the hotkey is Shift G to unlock it after landing. So I didn't make the mistake of running off the runway like last time, because it was locked. But I did kind of get eager to taxi off the runway and ran into the grass because I couldn't turn fast enough at the speed that I was at. I should have just waited to slow down a little bit and taken the next exit way, taxiway. But I was prompted by the air traffic controller, so I thought I could make this turn right here, but I could not.
Buffalo Airport information Delta 1327 Zulu, wind 205 at 5, visibility greater than 20 miles, sky conditions few clouds at 900, temperature -3, dew point -8, altimeter 29907, ILS 121.9er, Douglas Niner Echo Hotel.
So this is the end of our flight for now, and there's going to be a abbreviated engine shutdown procedure. I'll leave off the narration right here. I hope you enjoyed watching, and stay tuned for more videos as we continue our journey to the west of the United States. See you guys next time.